So are you getting ready to buy your first home but feeling a little overwhelmed about the process? Well, don't worry, because in this video, I've got you covered. We're going to go through the buying process step by step, including everything from arranging your finances all the way through to negotiating your first offer. And make sure you stick around, because I will be covering the 3 most common mistakes that buyers make, and you want to make sure to avoid these. Now, before we dive in, my name is Jacqueline Clement, and I've been selling real estate since 2017 to buyers and sellers just like you. So if this is your first time to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. You don't want to miss any important content about the buying and selling process or the real estate market here in Dufferin County. And naturally, if you are thinking about making a move to Dufferin County or the surrounding areas, give me a call, shoot me a text, or an email. All of my information can be found in the description below. With all that said, let's dive right in. Now, before you jump on realtor.ca and start browsing all the beautiful homes, it is really important to make sure that you first connect with a lender, whether it be a bank or a mortgage broker. This is buyer mistake number 1, not reaching out to a lender early enough in the process. Typically, we recommend reaching out to a lender anywhere between 6 to 12 months before you plan to actually buy a home. And that could be as early as 18 months if you're self-employed. Basically, if you wait until the last minute to reach out to a lender, not only could you potentially miss out on that dream property you found online, there could be actually lots of other things in play that need to be corrected in order to get you qualified for the amount that you're looking for. Now, personally, I always recommend to my own clients that they reach out to a mortgage broker instead of a local bank. This really is a personal preference, but in my experience and my clients' experience, mortgage brokers just have more options. Now, they may be able to go to the same bank that you're currently banking with, or there could be situations where it's in your best interest not to go with the bank that holds all of your savings. And generally, they just tend to provide better customer service and walk their clients through the entire process start to finish. And I've personally even had deals where the whole thing could have fallen apart if they had been dealing with the bank because of the time of day, or it was a holiday when negotiations were taking place. So keep this in mind, and please don't be fooled by the myths that all mortgage brokers are extremely expensive. In most cases, it's actually the lender that pays them directly and not you. Now, in the description below, I have included a few links to some reputable local mortgage brokers, so please make sure you go check them out. All right, so now that we've got you talking to a lender, the next and most important thing would be saving up for your down payment if you're not already doing so. When it comes to down payments with CMHC insurance, which is mortgage insurance through the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, you can put down as little as 5%. Without the insurance, you would need upwards of 20% down, but you don't have to pay the CMHC insurance. Of course, the lender you're going to talk to is going to be able to give you a lot more information regarding that. Okay, now before we jump on from financing is the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval from your lender for a mortgage. A pre-approval is essentially just a really quick snapshot. They look at an overview of your income and determine a guesstimate on what they think you can afford. This is not a formal pre-approval, so please make sure that before you start house hunting, you actually get a full pre-approval. Whether you are pre-approved or not, at the end of the day, it still comes down to that specific property that you are looking to purchase. That is always the missing piece to getting the mortgage actually approved. Not all properties are considered equal in the eyes of the lender. And last but not least, it's the one thing that nobody ever wants to talk about when it comes to getting your finances in order and ready to actually purchase a home, and that is closing costs. There is a federal rule in place. You have to be able to provide proof to the bank that you have an additional minimum of 1.5% above and beyond your down payment to cover closing costs. Closing costs will cover things like land transfer tax, your lawyer fees, any prorated property taxes, moving costs, etc. So please make sure you always buffer a little bit extra. We recommend 2 to 5% just to make sure you have enough. And honestly, extra savings is always better. Okay, so you've got your finances in order. You're ready to move on to step 2. The best part, in my opinion, is going to be finding a knowledgeable and reputable and local real estate agent. Now, I say knowledgeable and reputable because we all know there are so many real estate agents out there. So it's really important here that you take the time to research and interview multiple agents before signing into a buyer contract with any of them. So the first step is going to be to find someone that is local to the area you want to buy in. If you're unsure of exactly what area you want to buy in, look for someone that services that general area. So personally, I service Dufferin County, which is 8 different townships, and then about an hour radius from there because I know all of those areas really well and can guide my clients properly for what suits them best. Now, next would be honestly communication. I cannot tell you enough how often I hear people call and tell me that their previous real estate agent was absolutely impossible to get a hold of. And honestly, once we kind of start digging into the issue, it was happening from the get go. So if your real estate agent is difficult to get a hold of just to set an initial meeting, that kind of sets the tone for the rest of your relationship. And there's nothing worse than having an agent that you don't feel like you can call when you have a question or a property that you want to see. This is a joint relationship. And at the end of the day, a real estate agent's job is to put your best interests first. All right. So once you find that real estate agent that you love and you are comfortable moving forward with, they are going to ask you to sign a contract known as a BRA. This stands for Buyer Representation Agreement. It is super important that you pay close attention to the dates outlined in this agreement, and there should also be what's known as a Schedule A attached to the contract, and this schedule is supposed to outline all of the duties the real estate agent will provide to you, the requirements they expect from you, as well as any grounds for terminating the contract. So what that looks like is entirely up to you and your agent. Just please make sure that that is included and you read what you're signing before you sign. All right, now when you're interviewing real estate agents, they're all going to walk you through a discovery call, whether that be in person or on the phone. We generally ask you questions like, how long have you been looking? Are you pre-approved? Are you working with any other real estate agents? We are legally not allowed to even talk to customers or clients that are working with another real estate agent. Budget, where you're looking, your haves and have-nots. Making sure that you find someone that really knows the area and can guide you best is what's important here. Unfortunately, egos have to be set aside to make sure that you are getting the right information and your interests are protected at all times. Yes, you might have an aunt and uncle that sells real estate. Yes, your bestie may just have been licensed. Once you do start seeing property, it is super, super helpful to us on the real estate side if you give us honest feedback about a property that you saw. It's important to remember these are not our homes. We're not emotionally attached to them, but we are here trying to do the best to you, doing the best to try to get into your head to figure out what is your perfect home. So if you're not telling us your likes and your dislikes, honestly, then it makes our job that much more difficult and it's going to take that much longer to find a house that's right for you. So please just be honest, and I promise you, we won't take it personally. Step number 3 is house hunting. Everybody's favorite part. We all love looking at houses, looking at other people's things, and going through seeing how they decorated stuff. You know, we're all super nosy that way. But it is important to remember and be mindful that these are other people's homes still. While, yes, they are going to be moving, they still live there, and we now live in a day and age of cameras everywhere. So please don't use their washroom as badly as you have to go. It's important to budget time before and after your showings to actually do that kind of stuff. Gas too. Make sure you fill your car with gas, okay? An important and often overlooked fact is the logistical side to real estate. So our most important job is, of course, booking to view the properties that you want to see. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in order to make that happen. So we have to put together a map that makes logistical sense We're coordinating with you, the buyer, your real estate agent's schedule, the other real estate agent's schedule, and the seller's schedule. So all of those things are happening. You need official approval to actually get into the home. So it's really important that you keep to the schedule given to you by your real estate agent. If they give you a time slot and say, okay, we're seeing this house from 11 to 11:30, you can't show up at 11:28 and expect to still get a full walk through the property. The time that we book is legally the only time we're allowed in the property unless we're able to get in touch with the listing agent quickly enough, who then has to get in touch with the seller quickly enough to ask permission for us to stay longer. So fill the car with gas, take a bathroom break, do whatever you need to do before your showings start, and be very mindful and notify your agent if you're going to be late or need to cancel. Now, here is big buyer mistake number 2, trying to see too many properties all at once. While it can seem fun, and sometimes people are driving, especially if you're a first-time buyer and you're driving, an hour, hour and a half out of your way because that's where houses are affordable. Honestly, it can just get really overwhelming for everybody involved. A good real estate agent will take detailed notes as you're walking through properties to help them remember quirks and what's included and things that you guys need to discuss later. But I can tell you firsthand, any more than 4 or 5 and they start to bleed together, you can't remember which one was which. So then it kind of makes the whole day a wash and you have to go back anyway. So the best thing would be to try to plan to come up for a weekend if it's really far out of the way. Book a few the first day and book a few the second day. Now, just a little expectation set here. It used to be really common for a buyer agent to pick up the buyers and drive them around to all of the properties that they're going to view. However, because there's usually a much bigger distance now between where the buyer lives and where they're looking, not to mention insurance ramifications and liability and general safety concerns, it is not common practice for agents to drive the buyer around anymore. So if you are looking for someone to do that, it's super important you mention that in your discovery call before signing your buyer rep agreement, because to be honest, most agents just won't. Okay, so while you are at the house, you're looking around, you're enjoying all the pretty things, you do have to remember that this is essentially a business transaction. And while a beautiful, welcoming home is important, it's not as important as what chattels are going to be included, what fixtures are not going to be included. Those types of things are what your real estate agent should be pointing out, mentioning, and bringing to your attention. So just to clarify, a chattel is essentially anything that stays with the home but isn't permanently attached. So generally speaking, that's your fridge, your stove, your washer, your dryer, things like that. But there's also a section for fixtures about what's excluded. So there could be a hot tub at the house, but it's listed as excluded, meaning it's not included in the purchase price and not included in the sale. Not to mention any possible physical defects of the home. Again, all of these are the responsibility of your real estate agent. So I just want you to be mindful. Are they mentioning these things and are they pointing stuff out as you're walking through the home? I did mention just a little bit earlier that there are cameras everywhere now. Almost everybody has them now. You probably do in your own home as well. But it is super, super important to be mindful of cameras while you are viewing property. Often people find the front porch the best place to stand around and discuss what they thought of the home when you're leaving, because the agent has to put the key back in the lockbox. So you're kind of standing around there for a couple minutes anyway. But please do your best, and your agent should try to remind you as well, to save any private and confidential conversations, especially about your finances, for the bottom of the driveway or outside of your vehicle. I have had so many conversations with clients and I have to try to stop them because they love the house and they want to start talking offers and they want to start talking closing dates. And you're on camera with the seller watching you. Not really the best strategy here. So please Just try to remember to keep those conversations for areas well away from the home. All right, now moving on to step 4, we are ready to make an offer. So you have done all the house hunting, you have found the house that you love, and you're ready to make an offer on it. So your real estate agent is going to hopefully walk you through in detail the agreement of purchase and sale, otherwise known as the APS. So buyer mistake number 3 is not reading the agreement of purchase and sale thoroughly. Please make sure you read the agreement. Make sure you read the offer. I know that sounds super basic and you're probably rolling your eyes. The amount of people with electronic signatures now that just click through and don't read what they're signing is astronomical. We are only human, and at the end of the day, despite our best efforts, sometimes we make mistakes. Now, while you're reading through the offer, the most important things to consider are the price. So there are 2 spots for the price where it's going to be typed out numerically and written alphabetically. Then you have your deposit. Deposit can kind of confuse people sometimes because it's a different term. You don't hear about deposit until you're actually writing an offer. So it is a small portion of funds from your down payment that is going to be held by the listing brokerage until closing. Now, at closing, that money gets released to the lawyers and included as part of your down payment. So it's not to worry, it's not extra money above and beyond, it's just utilized in a slightly different way. I hope that makes sense. A question that we often get asked is, can I submit more than one offer? So say you went out and you found 2 properties that you absolutely love. Oftentimes buyers will ask us if they can submit an offer on both properties and see which one wins. Unfortunately, the answer is no. There are some shady agents out there that may oblige and write up 2 offers for you. But here's the scenario that I want to preface to you. What if they both accept the offer? No sign back, no negotiations, they just accept it. You are now into a legally binding agreement with 2 homes. There are legal ramifications that could happen. So please, 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 you only put an offer in one at a time. When you are writing up your offer, you're going to hear the word irrevocable about 500 times. Irrevocable is an expiry date for your offer. You cannot retract your offer before that date. So super, super important to remember. And that is why we can't offer multiple offers on multiple homes. Now, there's going to be a lot of new terms thrown around during the offer process. So if you have questions, again, it's really important that you talk to your real estate agent and ask those questions. Some of the most common terms would be, as I just mentioned, deposit. So how much money is the seller looking for a deposit? How much money are you able to comfortably withdraw and live without from your down payment for a period of time until closing? Is your offer conditional? So they've accepted your offer, but until you fulfill certain things, usually financing, a home inspection, sometimes insurance requirements, until those things are done and you as the buyer are satisfied, the offer's not firm. So that is a conditional offer. So there's conditional or there's firm. Now, if your agent suggests going firm right away, I would just like to caution you here that there really is no going back without legal ramifications. So you better be sure. One other little thing that you want to make sure is included in any offer that you write is the right to revisit the property. It is an assumption from buyers that they can go back once an offer is accepted as many times as they want between then and closing to measure for furniture, just revisit the property, show friends and family. Unfortunately, that's not the case. If it is not written into the actual agreement of purchase and sale that you have additional visits requested, unfortunately, the seller has no legal obligation to let you back into the property. Usually it's about 7 pages, give or take, and it's important to make sure you focus in on the blanks that the real estate agent is actually typing in. Anything that's pre-written is government mandated, so it is what it is, but should still be reviewed with you. However, your main attention should be to the fill in the blanks. So that's going to be price, deposit, closing date, title search date, which is a date where your lawyer has basically a deadline to check that the title to the property is clean. There's no liens, which is money owing on the property. No issues that you might absorb if they're uncovered later. Lastly would be there's a Schedule A attached to every listing agreement designed to protect you and your best interests. So this is where you're going to determine whether your offer will be conditional or firm. Now, conditional means you have a grace period. Often it's about 7 business days to confirm that the bank will, in fact, give you the mortgage on the property. So that's your finance condition. A home inspection condition, where you would have time to bring in a qualified home inspector who's going to look through the house, the attic, the basement, the outside, the roof, and essentially just make sure that there's nothing wrong with the home that you aren't already aware of. A home inspection is also a really good opportunity to get to know the home and how things work. So I wouldn't suggest passing that up unless you absolutely have to in a competing situation. All right, so moving on to step 5, an accepted offer. So you're done your negotiations, you and the seller have come to an agreement and they've accepted your offer. Super exciting, but there is a lot to be done in the next little bit. Once you have an accepted offer, meaning both the buyer and the seller have agreed to a price and all of the terms, you now have 24 hours to get that deposit into the listing brokerage. So hopefully your real estate agent will help you with this process, whether that is helping you deliver the actual bank draft or providing you with all of the details for an electronic funds transfer. It's really important that this money is transferred and proof is given. So you'll get a little receipt or a form proof of transfer from the bank. All of that has to be sent to your real estate agent, who then has to send it on to the seller's real estate agent. Without that deposit, your deal can die and legal litigation could ensue. So please be careful. This is a really important one. And the timing of making your offer really plays into effect here. So if you have vacation plans or whatever the case may be, just keep all of that in mind. Now, once your deposit is delivered, the next thing is going to be setting up for any conditions that you may have in your offer. You and your real estate agent should be joining forces here and getting all of the documentation, including a copy of the listing, to your lender or mortgage broker. That is first and foremost, because we want to make sure that if you only have 5 business days, we need to get that stuff into them right away. So I'll stress a little bit here that connecting your real estate agent and your lender is super crucial and going to make your life so much easier. If you have a home inspection condition, hopefully your realtor will be able to provide you with some reputable home inspectors for that area, and they should be coordinating when the home inspection will take place. And generally those take about 3 hours depending on the property. And pricing can really vary, but here in the Dufferin County area, it's on average around $500. Now, it is important to note that if you choose to walk away from the property, let's say something is uncovered during the inspection and you're like, no, I do not want to take that on. It's way more work than we initially thought. Unfortunately, the home inspection is non-refundable. So it's not something to take lightly, but I promise you it is money well spent. It's better to spend $500 than to skip it, save that $500 and be left with an absolute disaster that you can't fix later on. Okay, so all of your conditions hopefully have been met and you are satisfied and you are ready to move on with the deal. So the next step is your real estate agent is going to send you a document either called a waiver or a notice of fulfillment. Now, technically, if you did your financing and you did a home inspection, they should be sending you a notice of fulfillment. If they send you a waiver, You just need to know that legally that means that that is being erased from the deal. It's like it was never there. So to protect yourself, just for whatever reason in the future, we do recommend requesting a notice of fulfillment unless you decided to skip the home inspection, in which case that would be a waiver. Once you sign the notice of fulfillment, that means your deal is now firm. So firm meaning no more conditions. That's it. You have officially agreed to purchase this home come the closing day. The next step is going to be for your real estate agent to advise you and assist you in finding a real estate lawyer. Here in Canada, once the transaction is firm, everything gets handed over to a real estate lawyer. That real estate lawyer will require a retainer, but your agent's going to send all the paperwork to them and they will take care of the title search. And there is a date and deadline on the agreement of purchase and sale for them to do that. Your realtor should be connecting with them throughout the pending period from acceptance to closing, just to ensure that everything's on track. They have what they need from you and they have what they need from the seller's lawyer as well. Now, during this pending period, while all the other stuff's going on in the background with your lawyers, this is the opportunity where you should be getting a list, again, from your real estate agent of all of the utilities and the providers for the house that you are looking to purchase. Go online or give them a call and transfer those utilities as soon as you can. Oftentimes, people will leave it until a week or two before closing. And sometimes certain utilities and utility companies take a while. So you don't want something like that to mess up the closing of your sale. Or you move in and you have no hydro, because that would suck. Little side note is when transferring your utilities, because a seller actually has up until 6 p.m. on the closing day to officially hand over the keys to you, rule of thumb is sellers are responsible for closing day and the buyer is responsible for everything after. Let's say your closing date is on June 1st. You would be looking to transfer your utilities for June 2nd. Hope that makes sense. Once that is done, you should be entitled, if you listened to my advice before, to at least 1 or 2 other visits back to the property. One of those visits, use it for whatever you want. Bring your mom, bring your family, bring a designer in, whatever you want to do. That visit is yours to just go back and enjoy and start envisioning the space. For legal purposes, I always recommend the last visit is used the day before closing, if not the day of. Often it's not really possible to do the day of because people are moving, but try to get as close to the closing date as possible. Reason being is you just want to make sure that everything you asked for, those chattels and fixtures, are still there, that they're still in working order, and that there are no surprises like cracks or leaks or missing light fixtures and dishwashers. Honestly, we've seen it all. So super, super important just to make sure you save that. The sooner you can advise your lawyer of any potential issue, the sooner they can start chatting with the other side. And they do have things in place such as holdbacks. I'm not going to get into it, but basically protecting you in your best interest and ensuring you are getting exactly what you agreed to pay for. All right, so fast forward, it is now closing day. The lawyer has called you in, you signed everything. Usually that does happen like a week or 2 before. Key transfer is usually done via lockbox now, so they're going to give you a lockbox code. You go to the property and you are home. The first and most important thing to do, I know you just did it on your final visit, guys, but do it again. Do another walkthrough. I highly recommend that you record or at least photograph during this first initial walkthrough. Again, just to make sure everything is as it's supposed to be. All right, after you moved in, there's just a few little housekeeping things I want to recommend. Number 1, I always recommend to my buyers, just for general safety reasons, that they change all of the locks. You can never be guaranteed that you got all of the keys, and you never know what neighbor might have a spare. It's happened. Number 2, even if you're given a mailbox key, I highly recommend going into your local Canada Post and just seeing if there's anything that they need to do on their end. It's a really easy way to avoid mail disruptions. And if you haven't done already, get the mail forwarding set up from your previous address. Now, last but not least, many people don't know this, But Service Ontario only gives you 6 days grace period to actually get your driver's license and your personal information updated. So I would definitely recommend during your move, all the time you've booked off to get moved in and situated, book yourself some time to go into the Service Ontario and get that stuff updated. And there you have it. We just went from overwhelmed to owning a home, and it really wasn't all that painful, I hope. It really doesn't have to be overwhelming. You just need a good real estate agent by your side and to take it step by step. I really hope you found some value in this video. And of course, if you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any further information or real estate tips.